Let's do it. Hey.
Live. I was just kind of, tapping my foot to the music here. I was like, "Okay, I like that."
Grooving, grooving, absolutely. I think there's some duplication music there. Our tech guys are laughing at us. They're like, look at these guys trying to figure it out without us.
Right. I think it's worth noting that that song was developed by our team in a team building exercise,
Yeah,
right?
let's here. It was. This was part of the brand anthem. We pair up with Peach Jam
Mhm,
Records for this team building workshop. And
mhm.
we tested it on ourselves here. We rocked out. We rocked out in
That was one of the most amazing things we've ever done as a team, I would say.
and just so everybody knows, Adam killed it on the cowbell.
I
Like,
did. I was the cowbell guy. I was like,
yeah.
yeah.
I've got a fever and the only prescription is
Yeah, I didn't know. Did you see the Christopher Walken Super Bowl commercial where everyone was trying to impersonate him?
no.
Anyway, amazing. You got to watch it. He's like Christopher Walken
The
going about his
jam.
life, and everyone's like, "Hey."
You see?
Really good. Yeah.
He's epic. He's epic. I love it. All right. So last week we talked all about psychological safety, and our
Yes.
second pillar of an engaged culture is clear accountabilities. And so we're going to get into that. But why don't you tell everybody why clear accountabilities is a pillar of culture?
Well, I think ultimately it comes down to trust, right? High performing teams trust each other. And if you say you're going to do something, I know you're going to do it. And it's really clear what my job is and what your job is and how we hand off. And what it does, it smooths out frustrations. And frustration leads to passive aggressiveness, leads to quiet corner conversations. And, all of a sudden your culture is not driving your business forward.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I like that. I think, from my perspective, like you and I, we're both super competitive, right?
Mhm.
We love the fight, we love the competition. And so I think there's a bit of that in everybody. So like wanting to win, like wanting to do something and know that you did it right and well and that you're winning at it is a
Mhm.
huge factor, right? Nothing's worse than coming in and like working hard because everybody wants to do a good job, right? I think that's a kind of a no one says, "You know what I'm gonna do is really a bad job today." Everybody's like, "Okay, I'm coming to work, I'm gonna do a good job." They want to win, they wanna do a good job, but when you're confused or lost or Adam's doing the same thing that Caitlin's doing and then I'm frustrated, like you said, or like people want to say, "I'm winning," and know what that looks like.
Well, it's exhausting, right? Your energy is spinning. It's not pointing in productive direction. So you're just like, oh, whatever, right? So,
Totally.
and I think, competition, competitiveness is a great example. If we talk about Clifton Strengths Finder, for example, right? There's like your balconies and your basements. And if accountabilities aren't clear, then strengths like competitive's like a great example, right? That can either be used for good or it can be really frustrating for people if you're like, well, screw everyone else. Like, I'm not going down for this, right?
Right.
Um,
Railroad people and just stomp all over them just because you've got your own initiatives kind of thing.
and I think, in terms of clear accountabilities, you know, there's a difference between a team and a working group, right? A team, like I win, you win, I win, right? You fail, I fail, we fail, right? It's very much a group piece. And sometimes if I've got some stuff going on and everyone needs to kind of like compensate for that, no problem, we got you. It's clear. Well, everyone knows like where to adjust. Whereas a working group is kind of like, yes, we're coordinating with each other, but we don't really care. If I win, I win. If you lose, actually, I win, right? And a great example of that is your, CEO, VP boardroom, right? Talk about driving siloed behaviors, right? It's not a team. You're coordinating together, right?
Right? And I think and let's have a whole episode on this is, like, how measuring targets can drive culture behaviors because that, like, just opens up a huge can of worms. That's, like, an episode-long one, but I think you're absolutely right. Is like, you talked about the strengths finder, you talked about, the competitive side, but it's also too, like, I think people inherently want to feel part of something bigger than themselves. Is that a
Mhm.
fair statement? Like they want to feel like what they're doing matters on a grander level.
I think so. I think I don't know. People that are the islands of misery come in because they're just like, oh my god, if I have to type in one more data entry thing, blah blah, I'll kill myself. Right? They're not thinking, they're not feeling like they're plugged in. Whereas if you're like, oh wow, we're I don't know, we're producing the software that's going to help hospitals run better and save lives. Let's say, right?
Be the bigger
Then I'm like,
picture. They
oh
know
yeah,
that
like I'm in
data
the
entry
part.
point.
I'm in, right?
I'm
You
in,
know.
right? That data entry point is so critical to the grander scheme of things, right?
Hmm.
And I think that that's super important is like knowing that everything that our team does, everything that a company's team does is incrementally helping them succeed to their vision, to their, their mission, and hopefully if they've done their research, their purpose, right?
Hmm.
And like you and I, we believe in a better world through business, right? And that's what our team believes is that when we create engaged cultures, uh, the companies and the teams and the people that we work with, they show up as better versions of themselves, which
Hmm.
means they go home as better versions of themselves, which means they impact their family life. They impact the coffee person who's handing them a coffee because they smile and say thank you and they're not grouchy, right? It's just the ripple effect of being excited about where you work and being passionate about it is huge, I think, right?
Well, I don't know. For me, if I'm coming into work, it doesn't matter how busy I am or how many things I got going on. If I can visualize the day and like what needs to happen in each part of my day,
Yeah.
then I'm energized and I can do that, right? But I
Yeah.
can't do that if it's not clear to me. Well, where do I do here? Like if I'm going to a meeting and I'm like, was it you? Was it me? Like, was it him?
Right.
Like, so I can't visualize the path forward and I can't put my energy in that direction, right?
Yeah. You're spending time trying to just figure out what you should be doing and making sure you're not stepping on anybody else's toes. And this is really interesting because some of our clients, they're not like the Fortune 500 companies where they have a one person to one job ratio, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're the still wearing multiple hats, right? They might only have 20 people and they still have to wear many hats. And so knowing what hat you're wearing and what that looks like and what that accountabilities is for that specific hat, you know, in its small capacity, because it's not a full-time person yet, what does that look like? And I think too, it clears up a lot of like, oh, hey, we've been doing the same thing differently.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Or like, wait a sec. I've seen that form before, that brand new form that you created. Like, I've seen that before. Like Jane has one. Right? She lent or whatever, So
Yeah.
um and I think it's worth noting that accountabilities can change, right? The baton handoff, especially if the hats are all over the place, can
Yeah.
move. And if you don't have the first pillar, the psychological safety to talk about that and be like, hey, it's not making sense anymore that I own this piece, right? Now that this has changed or whatever, makes more
Yeah.
sense that that goes to somebody else, right? And
Totally.
maybe it's an entire new role, whatever. Like, but if we can't talk about that, if I'm just like quietly suffering and taking on everything, then that doesn't really help anybody, right?
Does not help anybody at all. And
Mhm.
I think too, like you talked about like handing the baton. This is where clear accountabilities has that ROI for culture, right? Because a new person coming in, you're gonna take off a hat and give it to them, but you're gonna have it exactly what winning looks like. Like this is what our expectations are. This is what we want to see. Here's the output. It could be a simple. It doesn't have to be complex and piles high of like management system procedures, but that clarity for somebody coming on, they're going to ramp up faster, right? You're going to get higher productivity. People who know what they need to do and how to prioritize it, and they know what hat they're wearing and how to win in each of those hats, they're going to work more efficiently, right? And so not only are they feeling like, hey, I'm contributing, but you're gaining productivity big time.
Mhm. Oh yeah, like there's no one more full of energy than someone in the first 6 months of the job, right? So if you can just make it super clear, like this is what you need to do and this is how you do it, like they'll run, right?
Yeah.
And I think where there's lacks of clarity, that's where procrastination lives. Like I know for me, if I can't see the path on how to do this, if I'm like, I don't know, something needs to happen here, but I got to go talk to like 5 different people to figure out like what and who and when and that, and like, why is this my problem? Why should I unravel this? Like, so procrastination lives in that fog of like lack of clarity. Right?
Yes.
Doesn't get done.
Well, and how many times, like even in our own team, like we're not perfect. Like, let's be honest, culture, like this is practice. Every day we show up to practice, right? Um, even in our own team, if we haven't given clarity, our own team will struggle and they'll kind of like, don't want to bug Adam or Caitlin, right? And they'll try to figure it out on their own and it'll slow everything down instead of just being like, don't have clarity. I need clarity. Help me get clear on what your expectations are. And so like,
I love
go ahead.
Patrick Lencioni says number one job of a CEO is clarity. And I always think about that. It's just like sniff out uncertainty and make it clear. That's it. That's your job. Like, yes, I love that. Oh no. Caitlin is frozen. Please turn her face is not too ridiculous.
Did we lose Adam? I don't know. We had a little technical glitch there with the internet. His internet sometimes, well, both of ours. Are you back? You're back. You left us hanging. Sniff out uncertainty and
oh man, destroy it.
Destroy it. Yeah. Okay. I love it. No, and it's so true. And you know what? Like I think we often think we're clear. Like how many times I was like, it was so clear to me. I don't understand why they don't understand what I'm talking about. So, being able to pause and being like, okay, tell me what you think I just said, or like, tell me if you understand, like give them that space to, ask the questions. And I think it's clear and it comes back and I'm like, clearly I did not communicate. Right. And so learning that sometimes we're not as clear as we think we are. That's okay. It's going to happen.
Well, let's talk, practical application, right? Okay. Accountability is great. How do we get there? What can we do?
How do we get there? Okay. Answer your question. How do we get there?
Well, I mean, first thing you got to do is understand what those accountabilities are, right? So that sort of implies that you need to draw it out, map it out, get on the whiteboard, right?
Yes. So, that's like so in our Mad Hatter program, we do just that, right? Like from business development, marketing, sales, full through the operations, supply chain, everything that might need to happen, project management, yada, 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 whatever your company does specifically, accounts receivable, accounts payable, all your support systems, which is your HR, your IT, your strategic improvement, your legal, hopefully your quality management and culture programs, like all of that support stuff that needs to happen. Who's doing what? Right? And like we have fun because we love to visualize stuff, right? And we love the interactive map that we create, but you don't need that. But if you know who's doing what, and you might say, well, Caitlin, I don't have a marketing person. That's fine. You don't have a marketing person, but at some point, someone is wearing a marketing hat and going, we need to create an ad design, or we need to have a brand guide. Someone might put that hat on and do that task, right? You might not need a whole person, but you need to know who's got what, because that otherwise it's like that. Oh, Jane already did that. Oh, where? How? Why? Right? And that's frustrating.
Yeah, I think so. And I think important, like in each kind of box that you come up with, each role is to define what it is, its purpose, what the expectations are in that role, and then what winning looks like. And that basically is the basis for your job description, right? Because then you can look and be like, all right, I'm going to take this one and this one and this one and this one, put them together. Thou art my job description. Go forth, right? I think
totally. Because how many people like they're like trying to like, well, I need to hire a marketing person, but I also want them to do a little bit of this and a little bit of this and a little bit of this. It's like, okay, the title's irrelevant, really,
Mhm.
which hats are they wearing? And do they have skill sets in each of those hats? And if they don't, how are you going to support that learning like ramp up, right?
Well, I think, if you get good at this type of stuff and you've kind of have this framework and this groundwork and you're looking at it very methodically, now you can start doing fun things like adding personality assessments or strengths
Yes.
assessments or whatever to it, and being like, cool, this person's doing this, that, and the other, but like it's not really their zone of genius. They need to do it for now, but I wonder if I could like customize this role a little bit because they're so good at interacting with the client, right? So
Right.
now I make like a custom role for this person and it works. But it's important to notice every new person that comes on or leaves, that balance kind of shifts and you kind of have to reevaluate every time. So
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
it's
the
huge.
dream, I think, with accountability, right?
And it can be exhausting because you're not one to one. A lot of companies aren't one to one
Hmm.
person to job ratio. People are wearing multiple hats. And so it is this like constant revisit and fluid dynamic thing that's changing all the time. And you've got to have a place where that's stored, where people can say, "Oh, Adam takes care of that." And you and I just did this actually. You and I just said, "It doesn't make sense for us both to be wearing these hats. You take
Hmm.
one, I will take one." Like, and the amount of clarity that it gave you and me and the amount of productivity it added into what we were doing was nuts, right? So, but these are conversations like how many times do we revisit our accountability map? Probably 2 or 3 times a year,
Oh yeah, that's often thinking about it all the time. It's like, do we
right?
formally do it? And I think it's important to note, like, people wearing multiple hats because they have to in a growing business.
Yeah.
Um, Prioritization becomes tricky. So clarity, right? Say, hey, you're doing HR, safety, ops, and you whatever office management. Like the priority is this one. Okay, I know you
Yes.
love to twiddle with the safety manual and do the safety meeting, but like it's fine. We've got a good safety program. We're of course like that's not the priority. But I can say that all I want. If you love doing that, you will always kind of head on over there. You might
Yeah.
just for a week after we have this conversation or two or a month or whatever. But I will never. I will constantly be battling my vision of your priorities with what you want to do. And I think as leaders, we have to recognize that. Be like, okay, like this person, that's what they love doing. I know that, like, though there's some realities that you have to um, adjust for as a leader. Oh no, am I frozen
We're
again?
back. You're back. You'll constantly be pulling you back
Yeah.
to to the right spot. And it's so true. And I love how you talk about like pairing strengths with it, right?
Mhm.
And because it is so great when somebody comes in and is like, I've got a strength in this and plugging them in. But let's be honest, everybody has to do the eat shit box. No, that's their eat shit box. That one's Bruno's. The Bruno eat shit box. You sometimes you just got to do the things like they got to get done, and it's not your favorite thing to do, right? So there's always a little bit of that, but it's about balancing the exciting hats with the like, okay, I gotta just get this done hats and making sure there's enough to keep people feeling like their bucket's full.
Or at least a plan to get them there, right? Like
Right.
acknowledging that, listen, I know you hate doing this, but you got to do it for a little bit. We're working
Yeah.
hard to get you over there, but here's our plan and let's keep talking about it, right? And you're like, okay,
Right.
cool. Like, I know I felt seen, I felt heard. Then I
Yes.
can, put some effort into this, even though it like kills me, right?
I
Um,
love I love the story how we were doing the accountability mapping for a client, and they were like a construction company of like 40, 50 people, right? We're going through, we're mapping it out and their project management and how it runs. And we started talking about people's strengths. They're like, oh, this one guy, he's super good at handling like client complaints and making sure like the quality side of things are, and our other project managers, like it's a grind for them,
mm,
right? And it was that conversation of, well, like, you're big enough now. Could that be an entire hat for this person? they can live in their sweet spot and your PMs can have support in something that they don't like doing. And there's this epiphany of like, we're ready for that. We're ready
Mm,
for this person to wear that hat solely and make this its own accountability, right? Take that eat shit box off of other people's plate and give it to the person where that's the lights them up. And so being able to have that like shift and no, it was just absolute clarity. I loved when that moment happened. It was like, oh yeah, now people are living in their strengths and they're just enjoying their job a little bit more.
well, I love that story because they were talking about performance issues. Like this guy will spend all day organizing folders, but won't go to site and like manage the freaking project, right? Well, the
Yeah,
frustration from like as a project manager, and then we looked at it through this lens and kind of looked it out. We're like, actually, a quality person would be really handy. Da, 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 da. There's your quality person. You've solved two problems now, right?
totally.
So,
Totally. Yeah, and being able to have that foresight to deal with it not when it's an emergency,
mhm.
right? Because like how much longer would people have gone on feeling frustrated and and then you have like turnover issues because they're frustrated in their roles and they don't feel like they have the ability to change them, right? Or to like move into that a new hat. But when you have it all mapped out like that, the visual gives you insight. It gives you
Mhm.
right? I mean, the cost of turnover is like close to $160,000 per person that leaves just to like find that person, rehire, like put out the job descriptions, put out the resumes, do all of that. Um, it's a costly endeavor. So if you
Mhm.
can keep somebody and have them plugged in, man, you're winning all day long financially.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I, if I were to sum it up, like lots of times when we're talking with companies, when we talk about different roles, like that is the frustration: is stretched too thin, is burnout, is this, that, and the other thing. So, kind of trying to take a step back and figure out what you're going to do because you have to add a financial lens on this, right? Like, I need another overhead person like a hole in the head, right? But that's looking like, okay, so what can I do here to generate more income somewhere else? Can I create efficiencies here so that I can do, like, right? You can start to figure that out. Otherwise, it can get away from you. Do you know what I mean?
Totally. And I think this is a perfect like reason why we started doing CDAP advising is because like the technology can offload some of those pieces, right? If you're automating, if you're looking at how to optimize your business, but technology alone is not the answer, right? We always say people, culture, right?
Mm.
Process and tools. They have to be harmonious. So the tools have to align with your process and tools have to align with your people and everything has to work together. And so you can't just have one without the other and having those clear accountabilities and where the handoff is first to understand that then you can plug in the tools then you can automate and say oh this one actually does even more now our people get to do live in their sweet spot right
Right.
so tools have a huge impact in how people show up in their accountabilities right if you're frustrated with manual stuff and you know there's a better way like it slows you down.
Yeah, and I think when there is a lack of clarity about that stuff, or it's just this crazy whirlwind of you know dynamic interaction, you try to add a tool in there, and tools are very structured. They're programmed, right? So they are all about step one, step two, step three. So you try and add this type of thinking to a whirlwind, and my God, it is a task to try and sort that out and get it to run through the machine the way you want it. Right.
And how many failures have we seen of people implementing a software tool, half implemented, didn't quite get there, only half the team uses it? Like, how many times have we seen that? Because there was not clarity at the front end. Those accountabilities, those expectations weren't clear at the front end before you tried to implement this huge change.
Almost every time.
Like almost 100%. Yeah, it's huge. And that's a piece that's missing because you've got your software people selling a tool, right? The people stuck in the whirlwind going, we need a tool. And no one owns the like clarity, process, change management piece. 9 times out of 10, it's on the side of somebody's desk.
Well, and this, maybe this starts to lead us right into our next pillar, which is strategic improvement, right? So now that it's clear, now let's fix stuff, right?
Totally.
So
Like, yeah, and strategic. We'll get into why the word is strategic. Next time you'll have to listen to that one, but I'll get on my soapbox about strategic improvement. But so for people who don't know, just heads up, CDAP is Canadian Digital Adoption Program. It's only for 1 more year. So like it's only relevant until the end of 2024 where you can apply, but the government's giving out small to medium-sized businesses a grant, like $15,000 to get an advisor. There's lots of advisors out there. Ent is one of them. We really focus on the B2B, companies that have that, want that clear accountability piece mapped out with them. And then the tool integration, but the $15,000 to go to an advisor to come in and do that, to tell you where in your business you could optimize with technology, right? And so why wouldn't you get that advice? Why wouldn't you have somebody come in and help give you a list of things that, you could improve here. This would really, one little tweak here is going to create a ton of improvement and a ton of impact for you. The program itself is great to help businesses get the help they don't otherwise ask for, I think, in that size company. Let's be honest, right?
Yeah, I mean, you may as well, right? I think even if you're kind of on the fence, you might be pleasantly surprised with the amount of value you get out of it.
Right? Yeah, you walk away with 1 gem. I mean, it's gonna pay for itself essentially, right? Because the government covers 90% of it. So, up to that $15,000. And people need to take advantage. They need to take advantage, interview your CDAP advisors, find the one that's the right fit for you, that is the right, has the right background knowledge and ability to really support you. And I think that's what you got to do. Like, do it. Jump on this if you haven't jumped on it. Take the money.
Right. We're actually gonna host an entire event and bring in some speakers on this type of thing, like how to get money for your small business, right? Because there's a bunch of different grant programs. There's ways to get money from the government. And I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a business owner who's like frantic about cash flow. And I'm like, well, do you know about this program?
Yeah.
Pays for all your training. This one pays for a consultant. That one pays for all this research you're doing. Like you're shortchanging yourself if you're not taking advantage, right? Regardless of your views of the government, there's money there.
Regardless of your views of the government, like, so, okay, we are down to our last minute here because we're only doing short little blips every week as I wait for Adam to come back here with our internet connections. Time for Starlink. Starlink, where's Elon Musk?
Yeah, I know.
So, every week we're going to do little culture tips. We're going to tell stories. Feel free to jump into the chats and we can answer any comments that you guys might have, or tune in later. You can subscribe on our YouTube channel. Next week, we're going to talk about strategic improvement and why that impacts culture, right? And why would we talk about it? So that's what we're going to get into. Like Adam said, we've got a Power Network group coming up specifically about how to fund some of those things in your business. So stay tuned for that. And if you want to talk about a topic with us, direct into the Enta Solutions LinkedIn page, and we'll bring that topic up. we're here to help and help support. So thank you for your time, and best of luck creating an engaged culture.
Bye for now.
Bye.